You used to think that you would never leave him. You used to think that he held all the cards. Bruises and scars, hurt the worst in silence. Don't be afraid to say it. There's no one left to please. I'm getting off my knees. That was the day I learned that I could live without you. Cause I can live without you.
Hello, hi, whoever is there. This is Spotlights with Dori of Doris Jones Labors of Love, and I am going to invite the lovely Natalie Dime into our studio, and I'm going to trade places with her and put her in the other spot. Hello, Natalie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Dori?
I am really good. I'm so excited that you're here. I am so thrilled.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. I'm like, I'm of course I'm a little starstruck.
Wow. Thank you so much for those words.
So real quick, tell me just give us a real quick spot check of how you're doing before we get started, before I put you in the hot seat.
I'm doing well. Considering that my life is always super busy, I feel like this weekend I did get some rest after a long time. So yeah, I'm good.
Good.
And happy to be here.
Nice. So that's good to hear. So are you in your studio now where the magic happens?
As you can see, this is an average American garage with the boiler over there and, a washer and dryer right there. And all the boxes behind me and stuff. But yeah, I think that this is kind of a new norm for a lot of people, especially in electronic music. They set up their studios in their bedrooms or their garages where they can. In my case, it's a garage because they have kids, and that's why I set up my little studio here in this garage. Yes.
My studio is a laptop, and I'm on my bed. It's like, right? We do. Yes. Real quick, we do have some people watching, so welcome to all of those that are watching. We have now. Tell me how to pronounce your first name as it is, because I know Natalie Dime is your professional singer-songwriter name, but is it Natasha?
It's actually Natasha. I am Serbian, actually Serbo-Croatian, but born and raised in Serbia, and then moved here to the States a long time ago. And my name is Natasha, and we just put a check mark on the letter S, and that's how we get the sound sh. Without H. Yeah.
That's good to know, because that's why I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what the symbol means, that I'm going to put an H on that S.
Yes, basically, yes. That's how you get the sound, yes.
Perfect. Good to know. Okay, so the first part of what we do in our Spotlights with Dori show is we're going to do some what we call spitlights. They're basic, warm-up questions that I kind of try to ask everyone. But I did put a couple of questions in here that I haven't asked anyone yet this year, because I want to, throw some new ones out there. What food do you never eat, ever, won't touch, and why?
That's a hard one to answer because I do eat, great variety of foods. Coming from the Balkans, we eat, a lot of things. But I would say inner organs of animals are pretty disgusting to me, even though in Serbia, we have a great tradition of eating stuff like brain and eyes and tongue. And even thinking about it is pretty much, turning my stomach. Yes. But other than that, yeah, I don't, well, maybe, I wouldn't eat live animals. I know that some cultures would eat living animals.
What about raw meat?
Raw meat, some of it is good. Like, yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, like we eat sushi. Sushi is raw meat. I don't really have problem with raw meat, but I don't. The older I get, and the more knowledgeable of certain things when it comes to animal husbandry. I avoid eating meat. I can't say that I never eat it, but I am more mindful of where I get my food, and I'm more mindful of my impact, through
Okay.
what I eat. So I eat less and less meat.
I know there's probably a lot of things on this list, but liver is first and foremost the thing that, like, we got force fed, and I remember daydreaming about being an adult and knowing as an adult there's no way I'm eating this. There's no way this is going to be the choice of what I'm eating as an adult when I get to pick. Not happening. Yeah. So the next question I have for you is, if you could pick one spirit animal or creature, what would it be?
Easy. Wolf. Always.
Ooh. Do you care what gender, wolf?
I mean,
or do you say female?
Well, I think that's more that
It's too much.
No. It's just that I think about it often. As my kids grow in different times than I did. I think about it often, and I actually enjoy my femininity. And my feminine body. And it's very interesting. I always had dogs, and all my dogs were female dogs. I think that I would want to be a female wolf. I enjoy the female energy. That doesn't mean that in any way I do not respect and have anything against male energy. It's just that this one that I understand and I enjoy, and I think that I would want to be still a female, even as a wolf.
Have you seen the movie? I want to say it's called Alpha, and it came out. I'm trying to make sure I'm pulling this up correctly. Yeah, so it came out in 2018, and I suggest, knowing what you just said and listening to you talk about the wolves, Alpha is one you're going to want to watch.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say, because I cannot, no one out there, please do not give Natasha a spoiler alert about what happens with Alpha or what it's about at the end, because that would just not be cool. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say. What is the one thing you cannot go a day without? You can't go a day without.
Music.
Okay.
I can not even remember a time when music was not a part of my life. Although I will say that there was a period in which I switched from contemporary music, whatever we listen to today, to full-blown Baroque all the time, Renaissance and Baroque music. And there was a period of time in my life, but I just couldn't listen to anything else. It's very nerdy to talk about it, but it's the truth. And I am a huge fan of Renaissance and Baroque music. And there was a period of time in my life when contemporary music I can't even tell you why. But I felt like I needed to be in some other time. Yeah.
Can you describe what Baroque means in terms of music? And the reason I ask is because I had a friend tell me that based on what he knew of my painting, that Baroque painters like that, because I had told him I didn't, like, I knew who Gustav Klimt was, who was not a Baroque painter, but I guess Baroque it's a certain kind of architecture.
It's a period in history of art, and it involves all art mediums. So there was Baroque for music and for visual arts and architecture and writing. And I will not try to define the genre or I'm sorry, not the genre, the period, because
Okay.
I might say something that is not true.
Mm.
It's been a long time since I actually studied history of music. And I mean, a long time. And there are things that I do not remember exactly.
No, that's
But
okay.
it is
I would imagine it's very similar to what I think you're. No, I think it makes sense because I think it's more about the period of time as opposed to something.
there are certain values that Baroque gave us that we have today. And coming from Europe, we are surrounded by architecture that is centuries old. We are
Oh, yeah.
surrounded. We're taught art that was created centuries ago, and history is very important to all peoples in Europe. It is very important to know your history in order to understand the roots and keep rooted within your culture. That's how people are raised, especially where I grew up. And that's why, everywhere you go in Europe, you're going to see old buildings with architectures from different periods that are going to keep you wondering, and wanting to know more. So growing up with that, I always had education classical kind of education that, gave me insights into music and art in general, through historic periods, how art developed and why we have the art that we have today.
Right.
There's nothing new, as you can imagine. There's nothing new. We just changed tools, but the messages are pretty much the same because we're dealing with the same things that people dealt in, Middle Ages or even before.
Yeah.
Certain basic needs are the same. And we still talk about those subjects. No matter how society changes, we still talk about love and, hunger or injustice, pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like it boils down to, in so many ways, it boils down to the basics about romance and finance. Like I could probably sum up almost every human complaint, condition, or problem or challenge to romance or finance in some way.
Yes.
So Kate's here. Hello, Kate.
Hey, Kate.
Throw your hi up on the screen. And we do have five. We have 5 people watching right now, Natasha. So anyone who is watching, please feel free to comment or leave a question. The next question, real quick, is what always makes you smile, no matter what? Speaking of moods or speaking of life challenges, what is the one thing, no matter what?
I know this is going to be very stereotypical, but the truth is that my kids always make me smile. They also make me mental. Often enough, I have to admit, but I don't think that anything. Yes, I don't think that anything can really get me to smile with such, such genuine feeling, so authentically as my kids can.
So how many do you have?
I have 4 kids.
Wow, busy mama. Busy mama.
Yeah.
Are they boys, girls, mix? What?
They are 3 boys and a girl.
Ooh, I have 2 boys, as you know, and
yes.
I had a suspicion that you were going to say your kids. Okay, so you're going to the movies, and no matter what, no matter how much money you have to have this go-to treat at the theater. What is it?
That's so. I mean, I'm not adventurous there. It's popcorn.
Yay! That's me. I am
good.
The most I feel like I'm this unique bohemian until it comes to this kind of question, because I'm all about popcorn and butter.
Yeah. Yes.
Butter. And I want butter. Yes. Actually, I want popcorn with my butter. Is really the most accurate way of putting this.
Yes. I feel you. I feel you. I agree.
I'm not alone in this. Woo!
Popcorn is not there for the taste. Popcorn is there for the chewiness. To do something you can chew. But butter is there for the taste. So yeah.
So I had a friend, I think we were pregnant together at the same time, and we went to the movies together, and she taught me to buy plain chocolate M&Ms and put them in the popcorn, like sprinkled on the popcorn, and they would, and yes, the candy outside part would keep it kind of contained, but the chocolate on the inside would get a little melty. And then it's like, that's the most decadent. That there's nothing fat free about this. There's not of doing that. No, it's one of the So last question before we move on to our rapid fire words is: what was your favorite toy as a child and why?
I can't really tell you that I was interested in toys. I was a book nerd as a kid.
Oh.
I read and read and read and read.
Who's your favorite author?
Currently, my favorite author is John Connolly and Susanna Clark. I think they're books that I feel like I lived there. You know, as an awkward kid that I always was, books were my, places to go to.
What genre are their books? I don't know those names.
Fantastical realism is my absolute favorite, but a lot of fantasy novels and classical literature. I grew up on those. Anything from Bronte to Heinrich Boll. Just a mixture of books that were kind of teaching me how to live. My parents were abroad working, and I grew up with my sisters who are 12 and a half and 13 and a half years older than me. And so, Katie, book nerd.
Rebecca, Katie's here. Katie says, yeah, book nerd.
So I think you can actually hear it in my lyrics if you pay attention. Like some of my choices of words are pretty archaic. And I'm not ashamed at all.
No, you know what? I think I can't speak for you, but as a poet, I've gotten the same thing. And I think that, I'm one of those people that understand Shakespeare, like as if I actually wrote it myself.
Yeah.
I can understand it to that degree. And some people can't, they don't get it. So I can relate to what you just said. And I wanted to interrupt you, but I was trying not to, but I've never been into ebooks. I'm a kinesthetic person, but I actually have in this experience, all of this year, as you know, I've been reaching out and meeting new people and getting to know new people, and the experiences that I've had with you and Kate and Katie and Van and Devin and Jay Andrew is that I'm like, I need to start reading from people that I know, similar to the music, how my music playlist shifted to being a lot of people I know. And so I actually have, now I can't afford hardbacks like for every person I want, or a paperback for every person I want to read. So I finally bit the bullet and updated my Kindle reader on my laptop, and I've got all these books on there, and I have some fantasy books in there. There's a fantasy series. One is a fantasy series I'm going to read, and these are people I've met. Like the author is someone I know.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
And that's and you guys, the names I said, and I don't know who all 5 people are watching, but we know Kate and Katie are here. But that's why I'm like, okay, I got to branch out, or actually, I guess more branch towards in my world. Who do I know? I'm an author. I want to read other people.
Yeah.
So those are the questions for our Spitlights section. And so now I'm going to spin us over into some rapid fire words. These are words that are specific to you. They're not words I gave to anyone else. And you can, and here's the thing, Natalie, as a singer-songwriter, you can do a couple of things. You can just, you can just respond to the word from whatever and just, throw whatever out. But if a lyric comes to mind, or if you want to sing your response.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, you're a singer, and I'm not going to throw it out there, but I bet if Katie were here, she'd probably rap.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Okay. So Katie and I recently sat together and
says hello. Dana is looking at you.
Hey, Dana.
So I'm sorry.
I just want to say that Katie wrote some lyrics on the spot, and I was like, whoa, like, there are times when I can write a song in 15 minutes, but those are rare days. Usually it takes me forever. But to write on the spot that Katie she's a different world.
I had before I had 3 mentorship sessions with a poet who awarded me. I won twice. I was awarded a scholarship to attend his workshops.
Wow!
And he would only do this workshop once a year with 6 people.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the first time I won, but I couldn't afford it, and I didn't get to attend. And then the second time, I actually not only still got a place in the workshop, but I was provided a scholarship.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. Oh, thank you. I know. Listen to my ego. But anyway, what I was going to say about that experience was before that, and Dana says hi. Before that, I had to be in the mood. I had to have a heartbreak. I had to have a love mess up. I had to have all these different things for the muse to come to me to write a poem or something.
Yeah.
The 3 mentorship sessions I had with him, and because I cut my time in his workshop to a stop end, and I don't need to publicly explain why. But in those short 3 span of times, I learned some techniques for getting past that, from getting past writing or emotions being the catalyst to write, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yes.
Dana says that is amazing.
I agree.
And then, so here's your words. You ready? You can sing, reply, whatever.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. Hot cocoa.
Ooh, yummy.
Ooh.
Absolutely. Hot cocoa is
marshmallows or no marshmallows?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Both. Yeah.
Do you think it's a mood thing? Or whipped cream? Oh, that's another question.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I am going to try not to drool right now.
You're going to drool. I'm like homemade whipped cream.
Ooh, you are.
That would be my.
That's the next level of gourmet right there.
Yes. If I don't have that, then I think I would. Dana says love it. Then I think I would settle for marshmallows, of course, and then a dollop of vanilla ice cream. Okay.
First of all, you're blowing my mind, like with all these things.
She's like
expanding my outlook on hot cocoa. But I have to tell you something. You have to understand, I came to the US when I was 26, and there were so many things that I never tried because they were just not part of life there.
Are you about to tell me that you lived 26 years without hot cocoa?
Well, we have hot chocolate that is different. It's actual melted chocolate, so it's kind of different, you know.
Oh, so yeah, the hard chip. The hard.
Right. Well, you have to understand, cocoa as a powder was at least back in the day more expensive than getting chocolate, which is already premixed cocoa with other ingredients. So you know, it's So hot cocoa, it was hot chocolate versus hot cocoa, and then marshmallows. There were no marshmallows there. There was something called Munch Mellow, which is this kind of sweet, I think, that has like a biscuit at the bottom and then marshmallow in the middle, and then everything is covered with chocolate. And there's a way to eat it, just like there's a way to eat Oreos. You have to eat the chocolate first with your teeth, you know, because it's a thin layer of chocolate. So you eat chocolate first with your teeth, and then you let the marshmallow melt in your mouth, and then you eat the biscuit because that's the least tasty part of it.
Okay, so here's the most important question. have you found somewhere that serves that just like you described it here in this?
Oh yeah. Okay. So but you got to go to.
Where am I going for this? This is what I need to know.
Listen, when I come to San Diego, I will get it for you.
He says both hot cocoa. Oh my God! Wait. Oh my God! Everybody's on fire. It's like, hold on. I can't keep up with the comments. Okay.
Advertising for Serbian food.
I'm drooling. Kate says, "Okay, that sounds way better than the Nesquik hot cocoa I grew up with." Katie says, "That sounds way better than just marshmallows." Wait, literally, you literally just broke the internet. They're like, bah! Like. What does Dana say? Dana says, sounds like a s'mores drink. LOL. Okay, so you're saying that there's a place you can get this for me.
You can buy this. Okay, so no, this is not. It's not a drink. It's like a kind. I can't say it's a cookie because it's not really a cookie. Like the thing at the bottom is like a biscuit, but it's marshmallow and then chocolate. Like it's like it's dipped in chocolate. But I'll bring it from LA.
It is over like midway through the description. I'm like,
there's a Bosnian store here in LA and in Santa Monica, and this I buy there, go there with my kids to get our fix of Balkan foods. So next time I'm coming to San Diego, I'll bring it, and like we'll have a Munch Mellow party. Whoever wants to come is more than welcome, and I'll teach you the technique of how to properly consume.
We're gonna have it to get together as us girls. We're gonna make sure
our time,
and we're gonna have it. Okay.
Yes,
your next word is train.
Oh my gosh, so many layers in that word. So many things about it. There is speed, there is destination, there is movement that is hard to stop. It's beyond your control.
You could probably listen back to what you just said and write a total chord or a stanza out of what you just said.
Well, here's a little fun fact on Old Film, which is the song that I featured on for Black Hesher for Van. He sent me the instrumental.
You mean this song that has this lyric in it?
Yeah, that's the one.
Keep talking.
It's an interesting thing. I had so a Van sent me the instrumental. It was a time of pandemic. It was a time when everybody was on lockdown, but I was excluded because I had to go to work. And I was still living in San Diego, and I would drive all the way to LA to work. And then after work, I would drive back to San Diego to go home. But for 1 week, one of my colleagues, he gave me his apartment to stay there because they announced furloughs. And so he said, like, why don't you just stay for this week? Because you're going to be furloughed anyways after that. And so there were so many things in my head, right? How's this going to, like, what's happening with the world, and what's going to happen to me and my life and my kids and everything. So he sends me two instrumentals to write on. One of them just didn't inspire me as much, but this one really worked on me. And so I kept listening to it as I was going to sleep. So it was just on repeat and repeat and repeat. And I fell asleep with it. And I had a dream where Van and Jason and I were on a train in a train station. Oops. The three of us alone in a train station waiting for a train. And all of a sudden, Van lies on a bench and puts his head in my lap. And I turned to Jason completely shocked. Like, what on earth is just happening? And my dream broke.
Wow.
And when I woke up, I had the lyrics. Like,
so
they had nothing to do with Jason or Van, to be clear, but they were just there. Like, as if that moment of something bizarre happening in my dream kind of just opened my chakras and helped me write lyrics for this song.
Well, that answers one of my questions was, I have it on the screen. Is it love or just obsession? I just can't get you off my mind. That is from the song Old Film.
Yes.
It is the first song of any kind with you on it that I ever heard.
Yeah.
Which is why I have it queued in this for us to talk about first. I have it up. And Katie said she's in for the chocolate cocoa when you come to San Diego. And then she said Old Film, fire. And so that answers part of my question, which I'm assuming, based on what you just said, that you wrote the lyrics to that whole song.
No, I just wrote my part. Van wrote, and it's a funny thing. He wrote his lyrics independently of me. So when I sent him this, he said, that's perfect because it completely kind of, it's within the same line of thought.
Okay.
But yeah,
I wish, for anyone watching, I encourage you to go find this song, Old Film. It's a Black Hesher song featuring Natalie Dime. It's one of my favorites. And then of course, and I know you already know this, I start into the discography of yours and Jay Andrews and Van's, and then I come across this. And now the Collapse is not the song I'm going to talk about. And I think you know this. The song I'm going to talk about is The Story of Goodbye, right? I have the name right. And that song floored me. And I probably one of these days, if I could think of anything, and I hope Katie is still there listening, if I could think of anything I would do for cult music for free, I would be willing to sit and put the lyrics on Apple, because some of the songs, all of their songs, are incredible. As a poet, I love lyrics. I can't get enough of lyrics.
Just like I can't get enough of poetry.
One of these days I will finish the song that I wrote for Van.
Okay.
Katie said that. Let's see. Katie says my favorite song off the album. Katie, let us know. Are you referring to Old Film or are you referring to Story of Goodbye? So on Collapse, there's this line: "The truth will always set us free." I wish I could tell you I knew the entire 4 lines to the chorus that this is along with, but I couldn't for a fact say every word of. She said Story of Goodbye. She answered the question. So that was, that's my, thank you, Katie. I love a lot of Jay Andrews stuff. I think my Jay Andrew playlist is 80 something songs. I don't even know.
He's one of a kind when it comes to lyric writing. He's unbelievable. Like every single song is so well written.
Nice. Well, I'm going to leave Katie's comment up since that's the song I want you to talk about now.
Okay. So,
do you notice we completely skipped rapid fire?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you. I mean,
no, are you kidding? We're good, man. I would much rather be talking about this.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me about Story of Goodbye.
Story of Goodbye was written on one of the nights when I was driving back from LA to San Diego, because I would finish work around midnight, like 11:30 to midnight, and then I would have to drive the 2.5-hour drive back to San Diego. And I had the instrumental clear of any lyrics or any ideas of what that should be about. But the idea was to make it a duet, and so sometimes I project, I don't always write about something that happened to me in a particular time when I'm writing. And before I actually wrote for myself, I was writing for other artists, and then I would listen to their stories and write about the story that they would give me, like anything they want me to write about. But so this one was a projection, because I was thinking okay, so this is going to be a dynamic between a man and a woman, in a duet. So I thought a story of two people. I mean, a story of love in general is such that we can't, it's not consistent, it's not like fairy tale. You don't fall in love and then you stay happily in love for the rest of your life. Love and relationships are commitments, or they're not. You break them when you want to, but if people love each other and they start off from like they build the relationship on love, they have something to go back to. So that's something that I was thinking about, at that point in time in my life. And I started thinking about two people who have their own demons to deal with, but they bring them into their relationship, and now those demons are, destroying the what they're trying to build together,
Right.
And often enough, we don't know how to communicate that. We don't know how to speak about it. We can't say, listen, I have stuff that I'm dealing with. Sometimes I don't need help. Sometimes I do need your help, but we just don't communicate. And then, things come across as, oh, this guy is not good for me, or this girl is not good for me, or something, this is not what I want. But then if we love each other, if the people love each other, they can remember that, and they can come back to it,
Yeah. So Katie says, you're inspiring some ideas are in right now for me. We'll talk about later.
Okay. So just
no kidding, Katie, because no kidding, Katie. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, Natasha,
no
because I wanted to say, because for me, the hardest thing about the truth will always set us free. Now, that in itself is not the first time I've ever heard the take on that, about truth being something that'll set us free. But for me, and what you just, when you were talking, what came to my mind was how I've had to learn the hard way that I'm not the best at trying to articulate my emotions. And so, a lot of times the lack of truth in a relationship, for me, I'm going to just say for me, has been that challenge. Not that I'm dishonest or that I'm trying to lie to my partner or whatever.
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate my truth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point. Yeah.
And as a singer-songwriter, who better to give us some tips on how to put our fucking emotions to words?
Well,
right?
I mean,
do you think that's why music speaks to us so well?
I think that. So when I write songs, so I have two aliases, but Natalie Dime is my primary alias and primary focus of my art. So when as Natalie Dime, I want to be there for people when they don't feel like themselves, whatever it is. They're broken, they're bent, they're lonely, they're in despair, they're grieving, whatever it is. And I don't want to tell them they need to get better. I don't want to tell them that they need to get up. I don't want to pump them up for anything. What I want to do is sit with them in that corner, in their darkness, and hold their hands. And then whenever they're ready to get up, I'll just help them get up, and that's it. And they have to do their own thing after that, right? Because everybody has to live their own lives the way they want to. And so when I write from that perspective. I don't want to tell anybody what to do. I just want to tell them, hey, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And is this what you were thinking about? Like
you're describing it.
I'm trying to verbalize it for somebody who can't,
You're just for like in my diva work, you're describing holding space, where there's no dictation, there's no telling, there's no, naming things or preaching or any of that stuff. It's just simply holding space for what it is, whatever that may be.
Right. Right. Because, and I mean, when I read, I read a lot. So when I read, I find myself, in other people's words, and I'm thinking like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking, but I just couldn't.
I'm back, beautiful.
I just couldn't, like, I didn't know how to say it. And this person said it for me. This writer said it for me. And so now I know what now my thoughts are clearer, and now I can, get back on my feet and
so
I just wanted to quickly say about that line in Story of Goodbye.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
The lyrics go, if we could only talk about it, the truth will always set us free.
Yes.
Should I start believing that neither one of us should leave? So that's the conclusion in this dynamic, like,
Katie says, I gotta go back to sleep, but killing it, guys, talk to you later.
Bye, Katie. So that was just conclusion. Like, is there something for us to go back to and try to talk about, like, our needs and wants and how to stay together rather than to break up,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in this song, this was one I came across. I was doing the normal prep work that I do when I have someone that I'm going to spotlight on my show. I basically become like a borderline stalker, and I'm like, I'm like all up in your videos and all up in your photos, and
I'm honored, to be honest. I'm honored that you did that. Thank you. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I definitely have been known to do my homework. And I, of course, came across, not only did I come across a video of you singing this song, Breaking the Chain, but I came across the first live performance of you singing this song, or you singing live. Yes.
It was a double like slam dunk, bam, woo, look at what I found Natasha doing. So amazing. I was so excited. And then, so the line that, like, of course I listened to the whole song. I've listened to it many times, but this one gets me. I absolutely adore this line. It got me all up in the memory of feels and everything it has to do with getting off my knees, and or in my case, sometimes getting on my knees in terms of prayer. Yeah. So for you, I just wanted you to kind of give us talk a little bit about this song and this line. There's no one left to please. I'm getting off my knees.
So I was commissioned to write this song for two producers in India in 2016. And at that time, I don't know if anybody remembers, in India, there were many, many cases of women being brutally raped and going through terrible domestic violence, and finally India was going through a process where the law was finally getting to the point where they were starting to protect women, because the culture was not like that in India for a very long time, and there was a kind of an uprising in India of protecting women, their rights, and their safety. So I wrote a song about a woman talking to herself, because it is always about how we need somebody else, somebody outside of ourselves to save us. But I wanted to tell from a perspective of a woman that found a way to save herself.
Right.
And these are mothers, these are sisters, these are daughters. These are your grandmothers or aunts, your friends from school who are being horribly treated. And you want them all to know that not only they can rely on each other, but they can rely on themselves. And so when I said, there's no one left to please, that's the point. You don't have to do anything anymore to please anybody else. You don't have to please your government. You don't have to please your neighborhood. You don't have to please the society. You don't have to please your colleagues at work. And you don't have to even please the people in your family.
Right.
What you have to do is find your own center of gravity and your own confidence to be happy with your inner self and not please others in that process.
And you know what I love about that? It brings to mind, for me, it brings to mind this, the work I do with Diva, my Diva Dori work and you may know this, it's for trauma survivors, women or men who have been molested, beaten, abused, raped, assaulted, you name it, all of the above, all of the above. And I hate, I hate to ruin the ending for anyone out there, but there's no knight in shining armor coming. Okay, this isn't fantasy where there's a Prince Charming coming around the corner on a fucking white horse that's gonna kiss you awake out of your Sleeping Beauty moment. You're gonna have to do some heavy lifting to save yourself.
But you know why, Dori, there is no knight in shining armor? Because when a person, somebody else from the outside comes to save you, you are again making yourself dependent on somebody else. You're again putting yourself, your emotions, your capabilities in somebody else's hands.
Right.
And maybe that person will treat you well. Maybe that person will change their mind. And what's going to happen to you again? So that's why you need to come to a point where you're your own knight in shining armor.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing it brought to mind is the conflict that I've often experienced with people who don't know me. They don't know the different artistic outlets I have. They don't know that I do stand-up comedy as well as the diva stuff, as well as being a poet. And one of the biggest contradictions that I ever get from anyone is they'll hear a stand-up joke that's told from the perspective of a sexually liberated woman with zero fucks given or apologies to anyone. And they don't get how that can come from the same woman who works with trauma survivors.
Makes sense. Yeah,
and I say to them, and here's why your lyric and your song, and this is why I appreciate everything you just said about it. The most powerful thing a sexual abuse survivor could ever have, is sexual liberation.
Agreed. 100%.
Because the choice becomes mine.
Yes.
And that was a necessity for a lot of the healing inner work I had to do for the things done to me. That was part of the puzzle, was putting that on there, was putting that out there as well. And so it can, for other people, the outside world, the clamor of the people out there who are either closed-minded or they don't, or they're still whatever. I'm trying not to have any judgments here. Yeah, that's probably the biggest confusing thing, and that's what I love about what you just said. Because now I've listened to the song, and I gotta go back and listen again, knowing what I know now. So to move us along, because we're getting closer, creeping up on the end of the hour.
Okay.
So, I not to rush or not to say that we can't go over, because we could if we wanted, but before I transition to the video that you sent me, I want to make sure, okay, so I know you said we're going to show everyone and let everyone see a video that we have that you shared with me. I can't play my own spoken word poetry because I will get muted, because it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on, you name it.
Okay.
So if the song you sent me on YouTube, does it fall in that category? Have you released this to like the world of music distribution, like the Spotifys and the Apples of the world? Because if you did, we're probably not going to be able to play it.
It shouldn't though, because it's been done before and I never had that problem. I mean, I released it through Bandcamp, and it's all independent, so all the copyright is.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't even see
settled.
All of these links in here are for Instagram, SoundCloud, Bandcamp. The reason I'm asking, I mean, I'm going to play it. I just wanted to forewarn anyone who's watching, you and me, if for any reason Facebook, like, you can call it Facebook, whatever you want to call it. If they give us any grief about it, anyone who's watching, you'll know why. So let me go to the Chrome tab. It's called Sweetest Secret, correct? I've got the right video? Okay. So let me make sure I cue this correctly and come back to you. I have so many videos down at the bottom. Okay. All right, perfect. I've got it queued. When I do this right the first time, I feel so proud of myself.
He stole from me my vitamins, my symmetry, my impulse. He looks at me, no sympathy, just happiness in blisters. He promised me the emptiness will only get much bigger. He lied to me. I never thought I'd need to keep my distance. The time has come for him to be evicted. I never know, it's way too late, it's only getting weaker. No one will know, the ground below will keep the sweetest secret.
Wow. I'm so glad that I didn't watch that earlier, because I when you sent it to me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna save my my moment. I'm gonna save it for like watching it with everyone else. And as a cinematographer, producer, director, video woman that I am, as just the music I love, the song, the lyrics I want to know. Of course, I always want to know the lyrics to a song. Are you like that? And I know it's a poet in me, but for you, did you do poetry before you did singer songwriting, or did you?
Not really. I mean, wrote poetry more like, as a personal thing when I was younger, but not really for any, with any intent of writing poetry or becoming a poet myself. But lyrics and poetry have always been a very important way of expressing myself. Mm-hmm. So I loved memorizing poems that meant something to me, that, that would find me something inside me. And when I listen to songs, lyrics are the first thing that I hear. For me, music is more, music is the, the thoughts inside, not what,
Part of why I wanted to ask was because Van, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but Van, his opinion when we met, when we were chatting and talking and getting to know each other, he said that all songs are poetry.
Well, I mean, I am.
He's like,
what do you guys on that?
What do you think songs are? I'm like,
a lot of people will disagree, but I am like that.
I disagree. No, I disagree.
Oh, you disagree? You don't think that poetry and lyrics are the same? Okay.
I do believe that you can take one and morph it into the other, for sure. But as a poet, being a lyric junkie, when it comes to the lyrics of a song, and that, you're right, that's what I'm going to hear first. I'm going to hear that long before the music. I'm not going to. Don't try to get me to, like. There was one song I had to try to explain to Van what it was, and I couldn't. I didn't have it in front of me, and I couldn't remember the name of the song. And then I'm like. And I rattled off some parts of the lyrics, and he's like, "Oh, okay." It took me a while to get in other words. Oh, I know what it was. So there was this one particular song, though, that even though the lyrics are the thing I hear first, I'm a total words junkie. I'm all about the lyrics. I was trying to explain a song to him based on the music. And I just couldn't figure out how to articulate. I'm like, I don't know if this makes any sense. I probably sounded so stupid. And he, of course, I thought I sounded stupid, but Van was such a genius when it came to music. He knew exactly what I was talking about. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And it was one of the songs it had. And basically it boiled down to the fact that I'm not even going to try to paraphrase what I said to him. But he came back at me with, "Oh, that's blues."
Oh, wow.
I was dying because ultimately, and I'm going to have to find the song for you, Natalie, Natasha.
It's okay. I go by both.
I'm going to have to find it for you because the song, I can't get in, like, I adore that song, but can I tell you the name of it? No. But I do know that one of the reasons why I adore it is that the music on it, not necessarily the words, the music, it was one of the first songs of his, or first songs in a while, where the music swooped me in. And it had nothing to do with the lyrics. And it was because of the music. The music was very Southern blues, bayou. To me, it sounded like something I heard when I was a little girl in bayou country. It sounded like old school bayou country type stuff, lagniappe type music. Because there was a festival down there. There was a festival down in the South that I don't think it still happens. And maybe it still goes on, but it was called lagniappe. It was enormous. It was huge. It made the Del Mar Fair look like a freaking shit show. Seriously, it was that big a deal back in the day. It was that big a deal. But that's the kind of music that one particular song of Van's caught me. It caught me off guard, and so, so we're at the part of the show where I get to tell you thank you so much. I'm honored, and I'm just beyond starstruck that you were here. That I got to meet a woman I heard singing on albums long before I got to meet you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so I get to tell you that you're officially off the hot seat, or out of the hot seat, off the spot, whatever you want to call it. And this is the part of the show where, and I know you already probably know this. I do spotlights as my way of honoring the muses that give me my inspiration for my own creativity. And no, I don't think poetry and songwriting is the same thing because, and this is why I know for me, I don't think they're the same thing, is there's a whole different thing to putting a melody together that can be sang. And I couldn't have articulated that to you until I did the spoken word poetry album this year. Because I can definitely tell you that having done that album, it solidified for me, at least for me, that they're not the same thing.
It's a long subject because if you go through the history of poetry, you're going to see that poetry took through different periods of time, it took a different form. And I find that that's my opinion, that lyrics or lyric writing is a subset of poetry. I think I see poetry as an umbrella term, and then lyrics being a subset of poetry. I don't know if you were aware that there were poets that were writing in shapes rather than in rhymes. Then so there were so many different ways, and all of that was poetry. I mean, poetry.
The poet Douglas Kearney that I found this year, who he was a professor, or is a professor, and I've watched. I'm a novice when it comes to spoken word performance type stuff.
Right.
But there's a whole thing. He talked on this one show about all the different myriads of forms, the different forms of poetry, the different formats of poetry. The whole reason I did the haiku workshop last year was because I quite literally had never written anything to form. Right. Ever.
And there you go. Yes.
Not a single sonnet, not a single form poem, nothing. Maybe in high school as a part of maybe an assignment. And so the whole reason I did the haiku workshop was to put myself outside the box, to do something different, and to write to form, to actually have to follow. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm starting with the haiku because that's a 5-7-5. I'm like, I think I can do this, and then I look at what it takes to write a fucking sonnet, and I'm like,
yes,
but I plan on it. I know I'm like this about it, but my oldest boy and I talked about Shakespeare, and I love Shakespeare, and I want to write a sonnet.
I just wanted to quickly tell you, because you mentioned writing to music. There's metrics to poetry, and you don't have to have music, but you're going to have a beat. And so there you go. I mean, it's just going to be in the way you speak it out when you're reading it. So you can totally sound like a rap song, just reading poetry, and that's there is a form. There is obviously a form of that out there, but so and that's a kind of form of spoken word. But I really
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to quickly say that there are a lot of songwriters that don't write to music. There are people who only write lyrics, and then they give their lyrics to somebody else who's going to write music to it. There are people who only can come up with vocal melody, but they really don't know what they're going to put, what they're going to talk about. So they give it to somebody else who's going to actually write proper lyrics to it.
Right.
So those processes can, and often are separate,
And this is what I was totally can appreciate more, not as fully as you can articulate it, or Van could, but the only reason I'm grasping an understanding of all of what you just said is when Van is the one who said to me, Dori, spoken word poetry is the gateway drug to rapping. And
MCing for MCs out there.
I've now officially told this story to everyone he's known as whoever his friends are, because he says this to me. And my response was, fuck you. Because I'm not singing. I'm not doing that. I'm not singing. Someone asked, this is what you will hear. If you ever, anyone out there, you really actually want to hear me sing, you need to be in a church with me. Okay, one. Or the new thing I've been doing, I will totally own this, and I'm gonna humbly tell my my friend Natasha, who I'm a fan of, that I've been singing when I'm live painting.
It's beautiful.
I cannot paint to bullshit freaking copyright free music, and I need to have my tunes, my people in my ears. So I have my headphones on, and I'm going to I got a copyright ding on one of my live painting things because YouTube apparently thought I was pink. And yeah. I'm like, well, I would love to think that I sounded as good as Pink.
That's a compliment, YouTube. Yeah,
I'm sure it was just a match on the words.
Wow, it's awesome that they caught that. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty funny, and yeah. I do. And so when that one conversation Van and I had, where we talked about writing poems as opposed to lyrics, as opposed to, because I'm always curious about whether or not there's a song in my poetry. And this is what even started the conversation with him, was like, I don't know. You're asking the poet? I have no fucking idea if any of that could be a song. So you're asking the wrong girl.
Okay.
So I just have no clue. I have no clue.
Do you know that everything you just said, exactly how you spoke, can be played on the piano? Without your words, just the melody of the words that you were saying. Yeah. So everything we say.
So get this. I'm going to get so excited telling you. So I take this conversation, and I take the things he says, and I take all of that inspiration, and then I go find Douglas Kearney, who is a spoken word poetry performer, and I do that whole Magic Man video, or the album. I did all the music. I mean, it's trust me, I'm not going to win any awards over it, but it's my own composed music. And then when I spoke those, when I did the vocals for those, I had Van in my world. I had Jay Andrew. I'd been listening to Katie, and I had been listening to Douglas Kearney. I had to create a Douglas Kearney playlist just for his stuff, so I could. And I took all of that and I fueled it into those vocals. And it's unlike what I had done before. It's unlike anything I had done before. So then last night, I've been honoring the creative people who helped me get through my teen years, and Madonna was one of them. And so I'm listening to Madonna last night while I'm painting live. I'm painting live, and I'm listening to Express Yourself, Vogue, Justify My Love, and Rescue Me. And there's probably more, but those 4 songs, all of them, have a section of it that is spoken word.
Yes.
100%.
Especially Justify My Love. Yeah, especially that one.
Justify My Love. There's maybe one line. The Justify My Love, which is the title, is probably the only song she actually sings.
Yeah, the only line, yes. She and Lenny Kravitz sing, yeah.
Yes. And then like the other, have you ever, and speaking of like the crossover of not necessarily, I mean, I don't know if that's would be a crossover between singing and spoken word, but there's another song, and I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's called Queen. Or no, that's not the name of the song. The name of the song is something else, but it's by a woman. Erykah Badu is on the track, but the singer is someone else. I'm going to look it up, because there's a part at the end where it's totally like leans towards being spoken word. I'm trying to think of the name, but anyway, to boil it all said and done, the point is what you already said, what you said, and similar to what Van said, was that spoken word poetry was the gateway drug to rapping, because I have a spoken word track that I haven't produced any music for it, but I recorded the vocals, and when I listened back to it, there's a whole portion of it where I sound like I'm rapping right there.
Yeah. Because you give rhythm to your lyrics, you give them rhythm, and then once you give them rhythm, they're becoming music,
Yeah, and the jury is out. It's out
right,
on whether or not I will ever actually do anything with that. I do have specifically an actual rap lyric.
Okay.
That I wrote for him.
Oh, really?
I have 2 of them. I didn't put them in my poetry book. I kept them to myself.
Oh.
I might be willing to share them with you. I quite honestly, I
would love to hear him. I mean, or read him, whichever way you want. Yes.
I will muse on that. So okay. Now you get to, we're over time, but that's fine. I don't have anywhere to rush off to. You get to ask me a question of any kind that you want. I can't be blackmailed, and I'm fairly certain there's very little I would not answer publicly. So what's the one question you have for Dori?
Oh gosh, Dori, let me just say that I am a huge fan of your visual art. What you do visually, yes, your paintings are so expressive, not only through the choice of color, and this is me not being able to speak visual arts at all, right? Okay, because I can only draw a stick figure and maybe a potato head, and that's about it. That's as well as I can do that. Oh, just a second, please. So, anyways, yeah. So choice of color, and then
yes, I agree.
Your lines, with when you paint a body, the lines are so sensual. It's unbelievable. They're touchable, even though they're 2-dimensional, but they're touchable. That's just fantastic to me. So I think that my question would be, with everything that you do, because you express yourself artistically through so many different mediums.
Yes.
Is plural media or mediums?
Mediums. It's interesting that you say that, because the Friday night Diva talk that Greg and I did was about art without boundaries and self-expression, and there's 7 basic areas of art, and I think the only one I've never really dove into much is sculpture. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's mediums, genres. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to describe it, for sure. So what's your question?
So with all of these different ways that you express, or I should say that you tell your stories, right? There's so many of them different. Is there particular love for one way, or is it just a spur of the moment, or is it like the different stories that you want to tell to you fits into a different medium?
Yeah, the medium is definitely going to depend on what it is what's happening. What is the drive? What is the muse? What is the, like, for example, love is probably going to take me to poetry. Love, heartbreak, the romance stuff, sex stuff. It's probably going to get me writing a poem. Painting is that's like this thing. Like, I can understand why someone probably becomes a sculptor and sculpts, because the hands-on act of actual writing or act of or painting, it's one of my struggles. One of the biggest things about this whole world of doing these illustrations for the books and stuff that I've been doing is I'm willingly going to try to do some digital stuff.
Yeah, I saw that you were
and the idea of doing anything digital, like, I'm a purist, I like my hands-on thing.
I get that. I still write my lyrics with.
It's no
pencil.
shock to me that one of the ways you described the bodies and my paintings of the human body, one of how you said you could touch it.
Yeah. They literally feel like I could.
I'm 51 and I'm not a spring chicken. I've been around the block. I'd love to see a man or woman out there actually shock me when it comes to sex. Been there, done that, perfected that. Yeah. I can't be shocked. I can't be surprised. And so it comes out in my art. It comes out in my comedy. It comes out in all kinds of places. But when I think about the lines of a man's body or a woman's body and something I might be writing or drawing, for me, I know that probably comes from touch needs to be soft. It needs to be something that's sweet. It needs to be something that that I think maybe the abuse survivor in me that you know.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about were you asking if there was one that I love more than others, or what just drives me to use which one?
Yeah, like, you know, I don't do any other form of art except music. And I mean writing, but when I write stories, they're not something that I would publish. They were just if I have something that's happening in my head, that's something that I see in my mind, and I need to put it down. It's more like that. But you actually choose all of these different mediums, and you know, so that's why I was wondering if it's story driven. You know, like how do you choose if you're going to tell this story in a painting, or are you going to put it in a poetry, or are you going to laugh about it through your comedy?
Okay, yeah. So comedy was the first thing I started using 15 years ago to as an expression. That was my first artistic thing I did where other people could see it. Mm-hmm. It was actually the only thing I did where people could see it. I didn't start letting people look at my paintings or read any of my poetry till 6.5 years ago, because that was something I did in private. Me showing you a painting was as or assuming that I would let you see my paintings would be like asking you to come over and watch me masturbate. It's not going to happen. That's too personal. I don't know who you're talking about. And real quick, you know, I disagree that songwriting and singing is your only art form, because I've seen your videos and I've seen the way that you do lighting on your videos. I like even a picture, even when you take some of your selfies. You've got some cinematography skills to the visual.
Okay.
You know, just putting I photography. My grandpa gave me a camera when I was 9 years old. I was a photographer long before I was ever a sketcher, a painter, a poet. I was a photographer. That was my first line of art. And then I grew up and then I started writing poetry and then I started sketching and painting and you name it. So I guess the shortest way to answer a really complicated question is it just depends on the mood. Okay. I do know that I am at a place with it where, and I know you already know this, that I'm illustrating my current poetry collection that I'm doing. And it's the first time, well, it's technically the second time, but I'm taking the actual poetry and I'm illustrating to it. Similar to how you were describing, you're either going to write a song and then maybe have someone do the music to the lyrics, or you're going to have the music and then you're going to write lyrics to go with it. Right. This is akin to that in the sense that this book I'm working on, similar to the haiku series, is the first time that where I'm actually taking my actual artwork and creating artwork based on what the poem says.
Right.
That's what I'm doing now. So that's interesting. And to make a really, really complicated question really simple, I don't do anything that has to have a lot of rules. That's one of the reasons why one of the reasons why I like poetry. It's one of the reasons why I do abstract realism or abstract stuff. The idea of having to stay true to form, true to body size, the true to geometrical correctness. I've zero interest actually someone, and I gave them Kate's name. I was on one of my Twitch, I was on my live painting thing, and a Twitch person asked me if I did portrait paintings, like where I would take a person's picture and paint their portrait. And I said, no. I mean, one, I don't want to paint like that. No, nothing against it. Nothing against anyone who paints like that at all. None.
Right.
I have no interest in painting to a dictation of something, or to be told that it needs to be like this, or it needs to look like this, or
Right.
that kind
Right.
of thing. So that's, yeah. So I gave them Kate Krasinski's information. I'm like, might want to go find Kate.
You know, I can actually identify with that within what I do. So when I started getting into songwriting, I didn't write for my voice at all. I only wrote for other people's voices. And then, and I really enjoy that. I like writing for other people because my voice is narrow and kind of niche voice, you know. And then when I want to write for somebody who has a huge voice, or somebody who has who loves to sing in a different genre and whatnot, it's really liberating in a way, because I can still tell my story and have somebody, you know, sing it in a perfect way, just that I wish I could, but I can't. And so, but then there were stories that I was writing that just I couldn't imagine anybody else telling them, you know. I really had to be the one to say this. And then I had to write for my voice. Then I had to understand the capabilities of my voice, even though I'm doing voice training and I am, you know, learning how to be better. But I only have, you know, this big of a range. I can't sing everything, or, you know, there's certain things that my voice just won't do, no matter what no matter how much I practice. And that's okay, you know. Everybody has a different voice, and it's a good thing to express these stories in different voices. But as I said, I understand that there's some stories, just like you say, you nobody can tell you that. Like, this story is yours,
Right.
and you have to be the one to say it. Just like, you know, but sometimes for me, I like to hear somebody else's story and put it in a song for them. Because when they're talking about, they go on and on about like what they were feeling, or what they were witnessing, or what was happening, but they can't put it in a concise form to tell it to other people. So
yeah, you're cutting out. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
No, I don't know. I hope you could hear me, but you cut out for a minute there.
Yeah. I do hear you. I do hear you well. So, yeah. So just saying that, you know, like, sometimes you have to say your own story in your own way, and it's got to come from you. Nobody else can do it.
Right. Well, it took it. I have. I don't know. I had to go through this reconfirmation, almost like a rebaptism kind of thing with my art, specifically when I started illustrating the haiku series, because I love the idea. It was given to me by a man named Pops Van Zant. He helps promote comic writers and artists and creators. And I mentioned something one day about illustrating one of my children's books, and then I talked about the poetry thing, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know exactly all of the conversation, but he's the one who suggested illustrating the poems. And I'm like, and it kind of, like, it took me a hot minute. Like, it's like, it would be kind of like, you know, you write in a certain, I would imagine maybe for you, it would mean like, okay, you write in a certain genre, or like you said, you're writing for other people singing, and then you start writing for yourself kind of thing. Because I sit down to do these illustrations to these haikus, and I wrote the haikus, and I know what the haiku is trying to say, but to put artwork to that, and what happened for me, and it took a hot minute. I had to rebaptize myself the freedom part of doing
I love
shit.
that Southern accent when you said that you had to
Oh,
rebaptize yourself. That was
I had to go old school, girl, man.
yes,
I had to go.
that was beautiful.
I had to go backwards in time because there was a time and place, probably around 6.5 years, 7 years ago, when I finally started showing people my work. It was an ex-boyfriend who got me to actually show it. He was an artist. He discovered I was hiding all this artwork. And I had to, when I say rebaptize, I had to give myself license to the kingdom again. And I don't know if you've ever followed Bob Ross. And I know we're talking about singing, you're a singer-songwriter, but I think it works for creativity. He would talk about our art needs to make us feel happy. It needs to be something that makes us feel happy. And if it's not, why do it?
Exactly.
And I had to, I realized that I was working in a world I hadn't worked in before. I hadn't done anything like that before. I had put art in all of my books I had published till up to that point, but I had never, and I love talking with you specifically about this because I know being a songwriter, writing to music, you can grasp how difficult that probably was for me.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. It's not the same thing as sitting with a blank canvas and you do whatever the fuck. When you sit with a blank canvas, it's like you're getting to paint the world. Like, okay, I get to write the world today. The world is whatever it's going to be on this canvas is going to be what I want. So that was pretty cool. So I will definitely warm up to share. I have what I told myself I was going to do with those 2 songs that I had given to Van that I wrote for him. They were technically poems. Part of why they didn't go in Magic Man, I didn't put them in Magic Man. One of the reasons why was because they're technically not poems and they're technically not done. That's the other thing which I loved about that post that you posted about this. We need a group for songwriters.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The lonely unfinished songs.
I'm like, hey, I can actually go. I qualify for this now. But the other reason honestly, and I think you could probably appreciate this. The other reason that they're just still sitting where they are is because I don't have the emotional bandwidth to look at them yet.
So
I don't. I'm going to have to be really in the mood to emotionally cut that day.
Yes. I can totally understand that. Even though Van and I were not really close friends or anything like that, we have not known each other for a long time. But and pretty much all our conversations were about songs and writing. But when you write with somebody, you got to bury yourself. You got to be open and vulnerable in that moment, at least. Otherwise, nothing good's going to come out. You're not going to be able to write. And those moments were moments of closeness. And any co-write, I can tell you, any co-write that I was in was like that. And so I did feel kind of close to him, but we were not. Like, we didn't know each other really well. However, I understand that when somebody leaves an impact on you, when somebody supports you and helps you become better at what you're doing, just like Van did, and he was. Oh my God! I never. Okay, so everything was a step for me. When I started writing songs, I never thought that I was going to sing. I was convinced that my voice was awful, so I was only writing for other people. And then, some really, really big names. And I'm not going to name them because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, because that's not the point. But some really, really big names listen to my demos, people in electronic music. And they listen to it at the Sunburn Festival, in the green room. And they thought that I was the singer. And then they said these words that I thought that I was just going to die hearing what they were saying. And then, somebody gave me an opportunity to actually be the vocalist on a song. And that was a step, that was an enormous step for me. Right. And so now I had to deal with that. And then Van comes in, okay, oh yeah, you're going to perform. I'm like, What are you talking about? I
saw
can't
you
do that, right? So
I saw you perform before I ever actually met you.
So that performance that you played, that was the first time ever that I stood in front of a microphone before in front of people. I mean, I thought that like I messed up the lyrics, which nobody knew, which is okay. Jason and I practiced and practiced, and I still managed to mess up my own lyrics, and I was so nervous and whatnot. But he was convinced that that's it for me, that I can do it, and so I had to rely on that power of his to do it. And when I did it, I realized how beautiful that is, how beautiful a way it is to interact with people right there on the spot. But and then I didn't know that I never thought that I would write for hip hop, that I would even get into that genre, even though like I did something in trip hop that's a similar genre, but still it was like. And then he goes like, oh yeah, you're just going to do this, and like co-write. You're just going to come and we're going to do this. Like with him, it was never like like insecurities are not like I don't have the time for this. You're just going to come and do this. And
we're talking about a man who like Van his discography goes all across all kinds of genres. Not shocking at all. I think part of what made his stuff so amazing comparatively to others is because of that, because he would pull in from everywhere else. And none of these are things I could have articulated and talked with you about before this year, because I interviewed Spike Steffenhagen last year, and when I said to him, I'm like, I'm music stupid. Okay. I don't know. I would definitely not call myself that now. I would definitely say I'm like, more music kind of. I don't mean like I kind of know. I'm getting there. I'm not stupid anymore. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but sometimes it takes somebody else seeing you from that different angle, because like you see your day and you see yourself in your day to day. You're just there for you. You're just there, every day you're there in that mirror or in that work that you're doing, or, the family that you're taking care of, whatever. But then somebody else sees all of that and constructs it, like sees a different narrative in it, and they tell you that narrative, and you're like, really? That's me too? And it's a great way to help one another with whatever you do in life, but especially arts. It's a really great way to help other people become the better version of themselves, the more expressive version of themselves, and to give the world the art that they can, that they're talented for, that that they have inside that they may not be aware of. So he had that power. He definitely had that power to do that for people. And I mean, like everybody talks about it. As I said, I'm the one who knew him the least, but he did it for everybody, and everybody says the same thing. And I think that he left that legacy for everybody, that we can do that for each other, whether it's now it's you and me talking to each other and seeing those different angles, in each other. And I think it's very empowering and helpful and inspiring,
It's one of those things that like. And I'm gonna after this we need to wind out of here. Around.
I'm sorry. I feel
no, you're fine. Trust me. If it wasn't for needing a human break, I probably would just keep sitting here and talking. But the poet that I had that experience with, where I was in his workshop for a time and spell, he said that the writer. Now he's talking about writers, but I don't think it's just limited to writers. It's writers, poets, songwriters, singers like Van, anyone out there, any creator out there, you're creating whatever you're creating. The minute you do anything, you've just immortalized not only yourself but the other people you've touched. I was doing Magic Man before Van even died. Yeah. I was already working on the collection. I had already given it its name. He knew He and I weren't speaking at the time, but we did mend our friendship 8 days before he died. So there's not a single poem in that book he didn't get to hear, except the ones I wrote after he died. But why I bring that up is this immortalization. So that poet that I was in that workshop with said, that's what we're here. That's what you and I are doing. We are immortalizing ourselves as well as others. The moment I put on paper or write a poem for someone, or inspired by someone, or about someone, or paint a painting of someone, even if it's not them. I have a painting in my book of someone who never in a million years would you know who it is. It's not Van. It's not anyone you know.
Okay.
It's a man. It's a man in my life, or my past life, or, well, my past. But you've seen the way I paint. You can't tell who he is. You can't tell who that is. No one in the world could know who that is. I know who it is, and that's enough for me.
Right.
And I that's what I do. That's what I feel like I do. And in my day job, we call that leaving behind a legacy. As a trainer, it's in the corporate world, healthcare world, I've done a lot of training. I've done a lot of time supervising people. It is my job to make sure the people behind me are equipped to do what they do.
Right. That is
not make them perfect. I can't make anybody perfect, but I can give you the best I could possibly give you so that you're prepared to do whatever you need to do.
That is so beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
You're using the word immortalizing. I mean, it's very, really, really well said.
Yeah, and I would love to tell you I created that, but it came from, the poet's name is Michael Xavier. He's one of my, no matter what, he is by far my favorite poet on this planet. And second would be Douglas Kearney. And technically, honestly, in a lot of ways, I don't even really want to put them in first or second, because they're nothing alike.
Right.
Michael is very much like me. Like, his spoken word poetry videos on his YouTube are like where he's in them. So he's in some of them, but he's not. Douglas, oh my God, Natalia, you would dig it. He performs the poem. And he's all in that business of performing the poems. And he did Broadway's plays and stuff, and performed on Broadway and all. So he's very, very, very expressive. Like crazy. Whoa.
That's that definitely sounds like something I would love. Yes.
Yeah. So
check him out. Yes.
Those two get me. In terms of poetry, those are the ones I go to. And Michael's the one you talked about. That's what we do. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to excuse you from the studio, because I'm going to stay on just a bit. I do a spotlight trio of people who are not on the spotlight show, but they're people in our industry or other industries. Hi, my sister Michelle just popped in.
Hello, Michelle.
She was saying hello. And so you're more than welcome to sit there with me. And this is where I give you the opportunity. You can totally sit back and hang back and stay with me while I go through it. Or if you are ready to go, you're more than welcome to go.
I think the door that was opening, I think that was one of the kids trying to see, yes, if I'm ready to be mom again.
I'm going to send you on your way and give you the freedom that's go forth and live. How does that?
But I will be able to see this later. I will definitely be able to listen to this later. So I'm looking forward to
100%. You can watch this back.
Yes.
All right,
Dori.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to remove you. You just sign off and do your thing. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. It's a great time talking to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So I am going to add a video to my stream. These are some spotlights of creators and other talents that are out there that I want to share with everyone. Let me make sure I get this in the screen correctly. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to share with everyone is a comic book. This is currently on Indiegogo, and the creator, it's a campaign. The creator is Mario, otherwise known as Marv. And so I am going right now to find, so this is some of the information, but I'm also, for anyone who's watching or watches this later, you will find the information for all of the people that I am spotlighting in comments. And I am hitting paste. Okay, so yeah, it's posting to comments right now. Okay, so Sin Killer, the Sin Killer is, Periscope wouldn't let me comment. Okay, so it looks like it worked for the other ones. So hopefully, yeah, I can see those. So hopefully everybody can see those. If you can't, you can always come back and watch this video. But the Sin Killer Revelation is a comic book campaign that is on Indiegogo currently. And so then my next spotlight, let me hit play. Aha, is the next one is for the Spice Pistols. So the Spice Pistols are going to be playing at the Casbah Saturday, July 31st at 9:30 p.m. They are playing with another band called Agent Orange. That event can be found on Facebook. The event link is one of the things I put in comments. So that's coming up for the band Spice Pistols. And then our last spotlight is for the Dollface Club Hip Hop Party and Queen Bee's. Queen Bee's Art and Cultural Center is here in San Diego. So for anyone who's watching, if you haven't checked out that venue and gone to it and supported them in some way, do it, man. They are incredible. Let me take this off real quick so I can read these names. But at the Dollface Club Hip Hop Party, August 14th at 5 at Queen Bee's, we will absolutely have the gorgeous rap goddess of them all, Katie LaDubs, as well as Sloat Dixon, Jay Andrew, Dev Lord, and Bloodstone, the Street Preacher, and of course Blush. Now, Katie's been on my show, and Bloodstone, the Street Preacher, otherwise known as Eric, will be in our spotlights next month. So in the interim, though, this is coming up on August 14th at 5 at Queen Bee's. So those are the spotlights for this week, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening. And with that, I am going to lead us out and play Natalie's video again. And once again, thanks again for joining us and hopping on and stopping in. Mwah!
Used to think that you would never leave him. You used to think that he held all the cards. Bruises and scars hurt the worst in silence. Don't be afraid to say it. There's no one left to please. I'm getting off my knees. That was the day I learned that I could live without you. I can live without you.